right, so good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to a thrilling program with us here at Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. My name is Jesse, and I know a lot of you are joining us for the very first time. And so if you are new to us, we are all about bringing conservation, adventure, and science into classrooms around the world. Now, this is our first full week back. We've got 18 programs this week alone. Everything we do goes to our YouTube channel. So if you want to check out any of these programs in 3 weeks or 3 years down the road, you can do so. You can watch our first programs from 2015. I look like a little boy. It's really fun. A good time all around. Now, today, we've already hung out with Paul Salopek, walking around the world in China right now, talking about climate change. We've gone with a peace boat, talking about the SDGs. We just wrapped up with Kurt Schwenk showing snakes live on camera. But today, I'm really excited to welcome in a speaker I wanted to have on for several years now. He kept me waiting, and now we've got him. It's going to be a really good time. I'm so excited for you to meet him in just a minute. Now, I will note as a housekeeping note for our live classes, YouTube friends, we are going to have a Kahoot today. So right after our video, before our Q&A, if you want to play along with a little 4-question quiz, test your understanding, have a little fun, that is our game pin. I'll make sure you have that before we go live with it as well. Now, today, I'm really pleased to welcome in someone who is I'm closer to Africa than I am to Wylie. I'm in Newfoundland. He's joining us in California today, and he is an incredible filmmaker seeking to bring some of the biggest scientific topics and understanding to the public in an accessible and engaging way. I first learned about him through his film, A New View of the Moon, which is incredible. I'll make sure all our classes have a link to that. But recently, he put out To Scale Time, sort of a history of life, the universe, humankind's impact on this planet. You guys are going to get a chance to see the whole film and check it out. But without further ado, I'm really excited to welcome in Wylie Overstreet. Thank you so much for joining us today, man.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much, Jesse. It's great to be here.
So you've been doing films for how long now? Like, when was the first time you ever went out in the desert to film?
The first time I ever picked up a camera to shoot something that wasn't, a picture of myself or my friends was 2014. So it was 9 years ago. And I had this crazy idea to shoot a scale model to build and then film a scale model of the solar system in the desert. And I didn't know how to make film, so I contacted my friend Alex, who I met through work, and he was a filmmaker and just also starting out, and was willing to give it the old try. And we went out there and shot for a few days, and then we spent a year editing the film. So it was an education from the very beginning.
We get a lot of classes because we have a lot of filmmakers on, photographers, and a lot of them are like, well, how do I get started in this? And the answer almost everyone gives is pick up a camera, like go and see and get what you can. But I really like that you highlighted the editing process versus the filming process, because it's easy to get thousands of pictures. We all have our iPhones on us. We're all taking pictures all the time. We all make videos for Instagram, TikTok, what have you. But to make something that really has an impact and to really reach people and touch them is something different. It takes a lot of work, takes a lot of effort, and you've done such a nice job of that over the years.
I mean, you couldn't be more right. Honestly, it blows my mind that we have technology in our pockets now that would make filmmakers from the 90s, the 80s, the 70s, the 60s so jealous. Yeah. It's the incredible resolution and capacity of even just our phones. But what hasn't changed is how hard it is to make a good story and make a compelling film. And that is, as you said, like, it's very much the edit. You have to figure out how all the pieces go together, how things move, the narrative, the flow, the music. It is a genuine puzzle, and it takes way longer than actually shooting the film itself. So,
well, speaking of films, before we get into this one, do you want to give us a little bit of context on To Scale Time before we play it for everybody today?
Yeah, absolutely. So To Scale Time is the second episode in our To Scale series. You may have seen our first film, To Scale the Solar System, where we built a solar system, but this one is we're trying to visualize all of time from the very beginning to now in a way that you can kind of hold in your head as you go through life. Like, if you ever want to remember how old the universe is and how you got to now, you can think of this film and you can think of, oh yeah, I remember the scale of how much time had to pass for us to get here. So the goal was to really get people to understand how much time there really is, and how little time our lives actually are in the grand scheme of things.
This is a concept that was one of the first sort of, when I was a boy, learning about this as an idea was so impactful to me. It drove me to science. It drove me to want to share science in a really meaningful way with people throughout my whole life. I think we're both lucky enough to be able to do that in the work that we do.
Yes.
But I've never seen it depicted quite so viscerally. And so I'm really excited for our audience to see it. Wylie, why don't we bring up our film and get started with this? Connection should be really good. I'll make sure all our classes have the YouTube link for this as well after the broadcast. But if you guys want to flick out the lights at home, in your classes, wherever you are, Wylie, let your film speak for itself, shall we? Here we go.
Wylie, I think we all have a pretty good grasp of what time is.
Yes.
So why are we...
Oh. I might go a little lower resolution. Wylie, the connection doesn't like me.
That's okay.
We're gonna put it from 4K down a little bit, but I will highlight it for our classes in 4K so you guys can check this out a little bit better later. But we'll go with
Every human being understands time as seconds and minutes and hours and years. But our brains are not wired to grasp how old the universe is. And this is a realm of time that we cannot imagine.
Father Time, how long has that clock been going?
A few billion years. Why?
Well, could you unwind it for us?
Man, are you crazy?
The best way to understand the history of the cosmos is to see a timeline that shows you the history of the cosmos. If you want to understand the age of the universe, you have to see a scale model of time. And the only way to see it is to build it. Welcome to the Mojave.
Thanks, man. What are we doing here?
With a big open space like this lake bed, you can take the years of the history of the universe and translate it into distance.
So double check my math.
200 lights to be safe.
How long did you say a kilometer was?
We're going to build two models. We're going to build a model of the history of human civilization, and then we'll build another model that shows the history of the universe. And by doing that, you can see how small we are in the history of the universe.
All right, what's the plan?
The plan, let's talk about it. In the next 10 hours, we have to lay out 800 lights, each 10 meters apart, walk 4.5 miles, probably several times in 100-degree heat.
And how are we going to convince our friends to come and do this with us?
I think we'll have to pay them. As if this wasn't hard enough, we have to get a single shot of the whole model right at dusk when the light is dim enough so that we can see our lights, but not so dark that we can't see the landscape. We'll only have one shot.
No pressure, no pressure.
We have to get it right.
Are you anticipating any running today?
I am not anticipating any running.
Why are you running?
We're running out of daylight. Let's go faster, let's go faster. Way over there. So why'd you want to do this, Wylie?
I don't know.
Ooh, he likes to cut it close.
Ready for this?
Ready.
One million years ago, our ancestors control fire.
Around its warmth and safety, they become social. They cooperate to survive.
They begin to cook and gain more energy from food. Over thousands of generations, their brains grow. They become we.
We make tools, rituals.
As Earth warms, we migrate.
We make art, music, culture.
We domesticate animals, then plants.
We create cities,
kingdoms,
empires,
the wheel,
writing,
math,
monuments,
religion,
conquest,
nations,
revolution, democracy,
modern science,
medicine,
economy,
trade,
industry,
transport,
electricity,
communication, technology.
and at last, today. But this is only the latest chapter.
To see the whole story, we change our scale.
The Big Bang.
Time begins as the universe expands into existence.
This expansion cools energy into matter.
Clouds of simple atoms condense to form stars.
In their cores, atoms fuse into new elements.
And when fusion ends, the enriched matter returns to the cosmos. Raw material for future worlds.
Over the eons, 100 billion stars gather into each galaxy. And the universe is home to 200 billion galaxies.
In one, our sun and planets form. As Earth cools, rain fills oceans.
Atoms forged in ancient stars bond into molecules.
One starts to copy itself. Life begins.
It evolves to live off light. And that fills our air with oxygen.
Then, a powerful new kind of cell is born. From it, life evolves into endless forms.
It moves onto land, grows large, but disaster strikes. Small mammals emerge into a world left to them.
They evolve to be larger, smarter, to stand up and become us.
We did it.
We did it. Oh, man.
What are you standing in front of?
So what you're looking at here is a scale model of the history of the universe. And on that scale, all of human history is this big. Every person you've ever heard of existed in this last centimeter of space. And your life would be less than the width of a hair. That is your life against the history of the universe.
What are you feeling?
Oh, man. That whole history just to get us here, I think it's beautiful. I think I look at this and I think, this is it, man. We have one life. We are alive for the briefest moment, but that time is a gift from the universe. It's a tiny moment, but what a moment. It makes you think about how you want to spend your own time. What's important with the time you have?
Wylie, I've seen that 10 times. You've seen that 8,000 in your editing process. Does it still, like, it's still astonishing, no matter how much you see that and think about that insight that we gained. It's amazing.
It's the universe never fails to astonish. Its track record is 100%, and I don't think it'll ever be anything but that. It's awesome.
What a beautiful, beautiful film. I'm going to bring up our Kahoot for our classes, both live and on YouTube, if you guys want to join on a few quick questions, and then we're going to go to Q&A with all of you. While I'm bringing up the Kahoot, I'm going to put up the game pin again. I'll bring it up on the screen for everybody. I'm going to share the YouTube comments from Sarah joining us in Accra today for you, Wylie, because I think if there's anyone who's like the most appreciative person we ever have on broadcast on YouTube, it's Sarah. She's amazing. So I'll get up our Kahoot, share this with you really quick. But this is exactly what we're looking for. And Sarah, I will note, we are going to have Wylie on for this film specifically. So here's our comments for you, Wylie. Joining from Accra, Ghana, we've got, we're going to get rid of our banner. Let's do that. Wants to work. Something has to go a little wrong. Otherwise, no fun for me. There we go. Joining, okay. Huge thank you for the short film, New View of the Moon. She's an informal astronomy educator, outreach volunteer, and general astronomy enthusiast for more than 10 years, and that film is one of my all-time faves, and shared it and watched it so many times, never fails to bring a lump to my throat. I will note for our students, and again, you can watch this in advance, you can wait for the broadcast we'll do in the future. Whenever I watch New View of the Moon, I cry, and it's the best. They're all the best. You've done 3 incredible films, man.
Thank you. I will say that I have to hat tip Claude Debussy for the emotion in that video. Claire de Lune is a piece of music that we used, and it is just absolutely amazing.
It is. Wylie, if you want to help us out with hints in all these Kahoot questions at the last few seconds, I will note the faster you answer, the more points you get. Now, you don't win anything, but you do win Wylie and I's everlasting respect. There's a much longer version of this on our page, too. So if you want to check out the full Kahoot with answers involved and everything, great. And then we're going to head to Miss Foster's for our first question after that. So how old is the universe? 100,000 years, 1.6 billion, 13.8 billion, ageless. Forever. We have no idea. The fact that we know this, have a really, like a fairly firm understanding of how old this is astonishing. Like, it's like a miracle of science.
Yeah, I mean, we have the age of the universe down to within about 20 million years now, which expressed as a fraction of the total age is like 99.999% accurate. So
most of our classes got this right, 13.8, which is, again, well, and I don't know, somehow it doesn't seem as long as I would have thought it would be. I know that sounds ridiculous, but listen, for thousands of years, we thought it was thousands of years old. So this is a improvement in the last few centuries. All right, anatomically modern people. So there's different kinds of humans throughout history, whether it's Homo habilis, Homo erectus, the Australopithecines, Homo sapiens, our species. How long have they been in the fossil record? This is in the clip. 500, 3 million, 4.6 billion, or 300,000. Let's see. I think this is a pretty good crew. We did like 90%. Ooh, a little bit of...
Yeah. 300,000 years is when we first sort of identified anatomically modern humans. And if you think about it, that is an incredibly long time for us to be around.
Yeah. I would say, so do we have a reading on average species? I think it's 1 million years, if I'm not crazy, that species tend to last. Now, I mean, we have a lot of technology on our side, but like it's a long time. It's both a long time and a really short time. It's quite astonishing to think of a group like sharks who've been here for 450 million years, 400 million years, and here we are, 300,000 years. I mean, we split off from our chimp ancestor, like common ancestor, 6.5 million years ago.
Yeah,
or so.
six or seven. So yeah, we're pretty new on the block.
Smiling Possum takes our lead. If you are any of these people at the end, do let us know. All right, the overwhelming majority of our biggest innovations have happened at the beginning of the timeline, spread evenly throughout, or in the last bit of the timeline. So we had the full history of humanity. We start with fire. Now, when do most of these things happen? Is it all at the beginning with fire and then everything else? Or, I don't know, it got awful loud there at the end of the video. It's quite amazing how much we've done in the last few hundred, and if not like few thousand for sure, but few hundred years compared to the whole sweep of human history.
It's remarkable. Yeah, the last 400 years have been by far the most fast in terms of progression.
And maybe that idea leads into our next question very nicely as Smiling Possum keeps our lead. All right, final question. Modern science began how many generations ago? 500 generations. So generations. So your mom, your grandfather, your great-grandmother, etc. 500 generations, 10,000 generations, 1,300, or about 20. Wylie might have given away the game a little bit.
Whoops.
Yeah. So, I mean, but this is an astonishing fact. I think that modern science, like the way that we conceive it now, so again, we stun people with this. About 20 generations. That's it. About 400 years, but 20 generations is shockingly recently for as many developments in the world that have happened to have happened. It's unfathomable. It speaks to what once things really get going, they really get going. Science did springboard pretty much everything to do with whether it's medicine, communication, travel around the world. I mean, you name a topic, science made it possible. And our leaderboard is reflected as such. If you are any of those folks, let us know. But we're going to dive in with a Q&A now. So thank you very much for playing along with that, 6s, 7s, and beyond. YouTubers, if you guys have any questions, we'd love to hear from you too. But Miss Foster's class, Tuscaloosa, Alabama, if you guys want to kick us off with a question, you are good to go. Hey, guys.
One of them won the Kahoots.
Oh, perfect. Way to go.
All right, go ahead, Lily.
Okay. What age did you figure out that you were going to make short films?
Ooh.
Oh, great question. I always wanted to make films. I didn't have to be short films. I just loved filmmaking, and I knew I always wanted to do it. And then it wasn't until late in my 20s, I think I was 29 or 28, that I decided, if it's time, I have to just start, because I was working, a normal day job, and life was just moving by. So it was late in life. I just turned 40, and I've been working at this now for 9 years. And only now do I feel like my career is finally in a place where I wanted it to be. But it took a long time, and I got started very late. So
I'm really glad you mentioned that. I think a lot of our students tend to think that, you know what you're doing from when you're 5. And I mean, I'm lucky enough to be in that situation, but a great deal of the people we bring on these broadcasts started really late. Yesterday's George Karunas, world-leading volcanologist, started at 28 and started chasing storms and chasing volcanoes. Also, I think we're all really disturbed to know that you're 40, Wylie. But I just want to know that. Thanks for nothing.
I'll take it all day long.
We're going to head to Raymond, Alberta, grade 6s. If you guys want to jump in and share a question, you are good to go. Come on in, guys. Hello.
What does it say? No, Lincoln. Sit down. Sorry, getting organized here.
That's fine. Take your time. Come on up.
Lincoln. Sue. Sit down. What got you into doing filming?
I loved movies, and I loved how much a good movie made you feel. It can make you laugh, it can make you cry, it can make you think. And so for the longest time, I thought I just wanted to write and make normal movies. But then I discovered science and the story that science tells us about how we got here and where we are in space and time. And I just thought, man, I can't think of a cooler story, and I'd love to tell that story. So my filmmaking target moved from normal movies to documentaries about science. And I have to say, it was the best thing I've ever done.
I'm really curious, and we got this question from one of our YouTube classes as well. Is there any film or group of films that really inspire you? Like, is there something that we can guide classes to as an additional? I mean, yeah, no pressure.
Yeah.
Anything that jumps out that are particularly impactful that you grew up loving?
I mean, man, I could talk about this for a long time, but I would say in the science and nature realm, I will always remember seeing the first Planet Earth that came out in 2006. And or maybe it was 2007, and just being like absolutely blown away and convinced that this is the kind of powerful filmmaking that can really change minds and change how we approach the natural world, and what if we could do that for science. So I would say that the BBC's nature documentaries were hugely informative, as was the original Cosmos, which probably a lot of you students haven't seen. That came out in 1981 or something, so quite a while ago. But it was a very popular piece of programming back in the day, and had a big impact on me.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, Cosmos was the most watched series of all time. I think it holds that designation still, which is...
Yeah, 500 million viewers and translated into something like 80 languages. And this was in a time before the internet. So if you wanted to watch it, you had to like know when it was showing at 5 p.m. on Wednesday, tune in. So yeah, it's impressive.
It's so funny to think that we both grew up in a time when, of course, you had, like, we had a TV guide, and it was like, okay, 6 p.m. and like you can't miss it, you can't pause that thing.
Yeah, not on YouTube later. Yeah.
You mentioned the quality of filmmaking has increased so much, and I just want to harp on, like, Planet Earth is that was my original big inspiration film. Watching Planet Earth and then Planet Earth 2, which is like 10 years, 15 years after, night and day. Like, Planet Earth looks like something filmed. I think you could literally have better filming with a cell phone nowadays than the best cameras in the world by the best filmmakers on Earth.
Absolutely. And not only just the cameras, there's a whole scene in Planet Earth where they want to get a very slow shot around a big tree, and they had to hire a hot air balloon because drones didn't exist. And so they had to do this crazy contraption that ended up crashing in the tree just to get a shot now that you could get for nothing, because drones are everywhere. So it's such a different time to be a filmmaker. What you can do and what you can capture is so much broader, so much more, cooler.
I'm going to go back to our live class in just a second. We got another one via email. Is there a scientific fact that particularly blows your mind? Again, I know that this is a tough question. Is there one that you want to share with us that jumps out today?
Yeah, here's one that I can't help but think about on a fairly regular basis. For you to be alive today, every organism that is your ancestor had to successfully stay alive and have children. There is an unbroken chain from you all the way back to literally the first organism that has managed to survive and reproduce. And that's why you're here.
Yeah. It's so trite. Does it sound so obvious? Like, of course, okay, my grandfather had a kid, whatever. But for 4 billion years, that to be the case.
Perfect record.
Perfect record.
No losses. nothing but wins.
No ancestor of yours ever got squished too early or hit by a meteor or anything else. You survived all the mass extinctions. Your ancestors, like all 6, they're just like, they're killing it. They're
True survivor.
Thank you. No one's ever said that one of our broadcasts, so I'm so glad you chose that of all the facts. Back to Ms. Foster's group. Come on in if you have a second question.
What type of film do you want to create next?
Oh, this is a great question. So our hope is to create an entire full-length documentary series where we create scale models of the various magnitudes of the universe's scale, everything from atoms to galaxies, on big landscapes. As this sounds very expensive, it is very expensive. And so what we're hoping to do is partner with a major production company and make a full series that you would watch on Netflix or Hulu or Disney. And I am very happy to say that we are actually very close to being able to do that. So we're speaking to the BBC, speaking of people who are very inspiring. it turns out if you keep working at something, people eventually notice. And so we have been noticed, and we're in negotiations right now. So
good for you, and
yeah.
Kudos for an incredible win. And I'm so glad you mentioned this too. I mean, a lot of, again, people seem to assume that it's like an instant overnight success, and everyone that we ever work with in this field is like 10 years on average, if not more, before they finally get something where it's okay. Something like that. That's an incredible opportunity by any realm. Yeah.
I will take any opportunity to tell anyone who will listen that it's not talent, it's persistence. It's not talent. Talent will get you this far. Persistence will take you the miles that you need to go. So if you ever feel untalented, just rely on persistence, because I feel untalented all the time, and it's just persistence.
Speaking of talent, and then the sort of the role of bringing together something like this, how important is a team? How many people are involved in this? Now you have a little credit scene at the end, but I'm curious how many people were persistent with you as you worked to build this?
Yeah, great question. So I do not work alone. I could not do this alone. I have one of my closest friends, Alex, is the guy who I originally reached out to 9 years ago, who I used to work with. And we still work together jointly. I mean, we do everything together. We edit together, we film together. So we are a team, and I've asked several friends over the course of many years for their help, and they have always stepped up. So I will say, find yourself some good, loyal friends. They will be your crew, but also just find yourself a good partner who shares your dream and can be your gym buddy, to sort of keep you going, and be a sounding board to bounce ideas off of. It's hugely helpful.
Fantastic, Wylie. On the note of astronomy, which seems to be something that links a lot of your films together, of course, we've talked about, again, today with a little bit more of time, but we've got Scale of the Solar System, we've got New View of the Moon. How do we get people as interested in space as you are? Is there a gateway thing, whether it's watching Cosmos, using a telescope, anything you can share with our kids to get them interested?
Yeah, I mean, I think space it's hard to make relevant. It's hard to make real for people because it's not something that we get to interact with in our daily lives. It's very hard to become intimately acquainted with space unless you go there. So I would say, if you can put yourself in a way where you can put yourself in a place where you can encounter space. Best way I find is to look through a telescope at something like the moon or the planets. And then just educate yourself as to what's out there, because the more you learn, the crazier it becomes. And it's this giant well of mystery and beauty and grandeur. And the more you learn, the more rewarding it becomes.
Yeah. Quick follow-up before I share some resources that were linked to that. Would you go to space if you could?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would I go to another planet? I'd have to think about that. But space isn't too far away. It's 60 miles straight up. So if you think about driving 60 miles, it's not very far. It's like an hour. So I would go to space. Would I go to Mars? I'd have to think.
The moon's a little closer. We only have a few days to get to the moon. That's
Moon's fine. Moon's an easy weekend trip. No problem.
By the way, thank you for sharing 60 miles. But it seems like it should be so much further than an hour at highway speed to get to space is ridiculous and very, very cool. We have astronauts on regularly who talk about the experience of getting up there. So I'm glad to hear you're in the same boat as everybody. I would encourage our classes too. Starwalk 2 is an amazing app. If you want to learn about all the galaxies, solar system, planets around you, check that out. And Spot the Station. So I find this particularly inspiring because you can literally track from any city in the world where the International Space Station is going to go over at night, any night, and see it. And it's so much more powerful than just a satellite, because you're like, there are astronauts in that. Like, people live in that. That's a science base in space that we made together. Check out Spot the Station when you're done. Our Raymond, Alberta crew, they have to head off. So big thank you to them for joining us today. I'm going to head to Miss Foster's class for one more, and then we'll wrap up after that. Wylie, come on back in, Tuscaloosa. Hey, guys.
How did you choose short filmmaking?
Ooh.
How did I choose short filmmaking? Was that the question?
Yeah.
So we live in a world where attention is hard to come by, and so is financing for filmmaking. So short films allow you to make something. So for instance, myself and Alex, we paid for all the gear we needed, all the gas to get out to the desert, and it it was just a more feasible, it was something we could do. Like we could afford to make a short film. We could not afford to make a full feature length, hour-and-a-half long television series or film. So short film was kind of like the only thing we really had to work with. But at the same time, we felt we could accomplish everything we wanted to in a short film for these ideas. Obviously, our ideas for a larger documentary series will require more time, more money. But for us, we were like, this is something that we can do with our own resources. We can make a short film. And in fact, I would say just about anybody can. If you have a good story and a cell phone, you can make a great short film. So it was just an easy barrier of entry to get the attention of an industry that could maybe lift us to the next level.
Fantastic. Wylie, thank you so much for joining us today. I want to highlight, again, if people want to find out more about your work, you've got a great website, very easy to find. Just type in your name.com. It makes it simple for our kids. Joining us live in Ghana, thank you to Sarah. Thank you to our YouTube crew, live classes. Really appreciate having you here today. And Wylie and I are going to talk and set up some other programs. If you want to see his other films, we'll make that happen in the not too distant future. I'm going to bring in our class to say farewell. Wylie, stick around for a quick minute, but Miss Foster class.
Hey guys.